morning show. Jackson's Playhouse is a great place to hang out, and especially this time of year, Halloween. There's a Halloween party on the 20th, and I will be passing out candy, so check that out. And again, it's a great time to book your birthday party at Jackson's Playhouse.
Joining us now in the morning show is Jackson County Sheriff Gary Schuette and Undersheriff Chris Simpson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, guys.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to see you guys. I have had the, I'll say, privilege of getting to go on one of the jail tours. I think I went on the first one. Oh, so eye-opening to me. And the amount of things that really are needed to where it's just, we need a new jail.
Right. Yeah. I think we're at a critical state with the jail, unfortunately, and part of the problem that we have is that the safety measures that are going on in there on a daily basis and what the deputies have to deal with is really at a critical state, like I said. So I'm a little worried about it. I mean, it's one of those things that kind of keeps me up at night. And when I brought it to the attention of the County Board of Commissioners, I think they were impressed by how badly it was needed as well. So I'm thankful that we've got it on the ballot at least, and we can see what the voters think.
Yeah, you guys didn't just say, hey, we need a new jail. There was hours and hours and hours of research that went into this, Chris.
Oh, absolutely. And you say hours and hours, and it was months and months, and definitely long days, long nights as well. I think the sheriff did a fantastic job of rolling out the information, not only to the Board of Commissioners, but to the community as well, and opening the doors to the community, because in essence, it's a community's jail.
Right.
I mean, we operate it, obviously. But we have good employees there, and we have to ensure that our inmates are safe and secure, and we need a facility that supports both.
One thing that surprised me as I was looking at some of your pictures, the safety of the employees is at risk, and also inmates. There are situations where an inmate could have a medical emergency or worse, and you can't see them. You don't have access, there's no cameras, there's no visible line of contact with inmates, and that's a life or death situation.
It really is. So the jail was constructed, construction began in the late 40s and it was completed in 52. We took possession in 53. So it's 70 years old. So when you look at 70-year-old technology, it's completely dated. It worked really well in its day, and we were able to make it work through that time. But unfortunately, now we have blind spots and hidden areas, and today's modern criminal, if you will, takes advantage of those things. They know where those nooks and crannies are at inside of the facility, and when we go and look for inmates that are doing things or involved in these types of activities, we often find that they're hidden in these locations, and it makes it really difficult on our staff.
I hear. So this was a kind of an interesting story. I remember, I think Sheriff Schuette, you told this. These locks you can't just run over to Castler's and get parts for.
Right.
Tell the story about how you had to fix these.
This is known as a Folger-Adams lock, and it requires a specific key. It's a very large, if you think of the old-fashioned jail key, in order to turn that lock. Well, they don't make those anymore. They haven't made them for several years. Our jail is full of them, and as you can see, this has kind of been taken apart in that photograph there. What had happened is the very first murder trial that we had after COVID here in Jackson County, that lock failed on one of the doors when we were trying to get the subject out so that he could go and attend his trial. When that lock broke, we had to call in our maintenance service people, and they had to actually torch the door off in order to get the person out. So if you think if we had a medical emergency, if we had a serious assault occurring inside of those cells, we couldn't get at them.
Or if we had to evacuate.
Right.
Yeah. If a catastrophic incident occurred, we couldn't get them out. So that's a huge concern. And in addition to that, we had to call somebody in. The closest person we could find was in Wisconsin. We called him in to repair that. It took him 2 days. At the end of the day, it was like $6,500 to repair one lock.
Yeah.
And he had to fabricate the parts in order to do it.
Right.
So it's just not something that's feasible anymore.
In this building, the walls are so thick in this, so the thought of rehabbing this and putting new technology in it, it'd be too cumbersome of labor, wouldn't it?
It really is, and the sheriff can give you the dimensions on the thickness, but to run fiber optic cables or even Cat5 cables, for communication, it's very challenging. And as you can see in the diagram, we have to run it outside.
Mm-hmm.
Now, being outside in a regular organization, you may get through, get by, but in a jail, it's a concern because inmates can walk by, grab these, try to hang themselves with them, try to get them off, fashion them as weapons, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. It's still a concern.
And there's drywall all throughout the place, and inmates can dig the drywall screws out and fashion weapons out of them. And that's happened.
Yes, that has happened. In fact, going back to the walls themselves, so if you look at the era that this was made, it was in the early 50s, which was the nuclear fallout era, right? So it was built as a nuclear fallout structure. So the exterior walls are 2 foot thick solid concrete. The interior walls are 16 inches thick solid concrete. And they run from the basement to the ceiling. So there's no breaks in there except for doorways. So that's why the wires are run on the outside, because there's no place else to run them. There's nowhere that we can try to get them through. So we had some of that Cat5 wiring that we needed to run through for Zoom Court on our second floor. And we had to go through a 16-inch wall. So it took 2 maintenance guys an hour and a half to drill through that and 14 drill bits.
Wow.
Because it is so hard.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, what it does is it hampers our communications. So we've put repeaters all through the place. We can't use the 800 megahertz radio system. It just doesn't penetrate the walls at all. So we use the UHF system, and we have put repeaters all through the place to try and get communications established. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's spotty. So the deputies have created a system where they use static to let one another know when they need assistance. And we're talking a little bit about those hidden blind spots. So when they're doing their rounds and they see something that's not right, they need some assistance, they have to do a Morse code static in order to get through. I mean, it's just, it's a miracle that they've done as well as they have done, and they do a fantastic job of carrying the load for us there. But they shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
it should be a much safer place.
I think my takeaway from that was watching your current jail staff, how they operate. It's really amazing what they do, because it's not ideal conditions, but they've been able to make some changes so that things do go a little bit smoother. So we saw the plumbing problems. We know all this. So what would happen to this building if voters do vote in on the ballot for a new jail? Sure. Yeah.
What would happen to the current building at Wesley Street? Inevitably, it would be taken down.
Yeah.
The whole jail would be demolished. A new administration building will be erected. The sheriff's office, the sheriff's position, myself and the 2 captains, have to be in the county seat. The county seat is the city of Jackson. So we would erect a smaller administration building there with some holding cells and a sally port that would be more or less connected to the court building, because we still have to transport people to and from court. So with the main facility out on Channel Road, would transport down, downtown, and then get them over to court if need be. But there would be a small administration building there on Wesley Street.
For those that don't know, what is a sally port and what goes on in a sally port?
Well, a sally port is, in layman terms, would be closer to a garage, a drive-through garage. But its purpose is to an officer, a deputy, or a trooper, or an ambulatory service to come in, be secure with their vehicle, be able to drop off or pick up, and in the same fashion have an entry and an exit. The current one we have now is only an entrance where you have to back out of it. We can't bring in an ambulatory or an ambulance or even a fire truck for those type of emergency services. They have to more or less dock outside and then come in and provide services.
So a new jail would be built on Channel Road, and there's already a jail there. What's that jail?
So the Channel Road Jail was built with the idea in mind that people would serve their sentences there. So folks that have been convicted of a misdemeanor crime, for instance, would serve a sentence there if the judge were so inclined to sentence them to jail. In addition to that, there's other instances that mandate that people go to jail for some types of crimes. In particular, you have probation violations, you have parole violations. Perhaps they're stuck in incarceration for 45 days or 90 days, sometimes up to a year. They can serve that in a county jail. Well, we have quite a bit of that. Obviously, population 160,000. You have a lot of that kind of a thing. So you need a place for them to go. Original design on the Channel Road facility was for that purpose. So it's only for a level 1 security level, which is a classification that's the lowest on the chart. In our pretrial detention area, which is what Wesley Street is, we have all the way up to level 4. I explained to you before the homicide suspect that we had. He would be a level 4. We're not able to put them out onto Channel Road right now. So that's the incident or circumstances out there. This new facility, which would be an addition actually out there rather than a new jail per se, it would be an addition. That would be able to hold all those pretrial detainees. So it would be a lot better for us to be able to have all of that connected with the Channel Road facility. It would allow us to share staff between the two, because right now we have them bifurcated, in the two different buildings. It would allow us to share staff, and in addition to that, we would do some modifications to the current Channel Road facility to allow for different levels there as well.
And you see from the shot here, of course, more modern, what you're used to seeing in the movies, of course, central command where you can see everything.
Right.
Believe it or not, Chris, a lot of us only know about prison and jail from the movies.
That's a good thing.
That's a good
It is a good thing.
But it seems like this will allow really your whole department to just work the way that law enforcement was intended to work.
I agree with that. Right now, we're still operating in the 1950s.
Yeah.
That would allow us to actually operate in the 2020s. And I think not only will it make us more efficient and safer, but I think the community will be safer as well. One of the things that we're not able to provide right now to the public is the ability to have these cool down periods for people that are committing crimes. And the reason for that is we just don't have the ability to lock them up.
Right.
So, for instance, in a domestic assault situation, which is a circumstance that we are mandated by statute to lock people up in, we arrest people in a domestic assault, they have a 20-hour cool-off period that they have to be incarcerated. We have to do that. In other circumstances, when we catch someone with a gun, now, for instance, if we know that person, because of intelligence that we gathered, is going to be involved in a drive-by shooting or something like that, and that's how we receive this information, we put them in jail under that guise, then we can have them in there for up to 14 days until the preliminary exam occurs. Not in Jackson.
Right.
They get bonds, and they're often let out within a day or two. And I think that doesn't allow a sufficient enough cooling off.
Criminals know this, right?
They absolutely know this.
So how much is this going to cost?
So just shy of $52 million. And I know that's a lot of money. And believe it or not, when we first got our information back, it was much, much higher than that. So we whittled that down to $52 million. $3 million of which can be paid with ARPA funds. Initially, we thought it was only going to be $2 million. Our attorneys have been able to make a determination that an additional $1 million could be used for it, primarily because of the Channel Road complex being an existing complex. So $49 million would need to be paid through the millage. So the millage request is actually for 1 mil, but in actuality, that's only a $0.5 mil increase, because the Channel Road complex that we've already talked about a little bit, that millage that built that facility expired in 2021, and we have one more collection year, 2022, for that $0.5 mil. So what we're asking for in 1 mil is actually only a $0.5 mil increase.
All right. that'll be on the ballot next month. And if you have any more questions, I know that you guys have had some public meetings and you've opened up the jail for people to see, and if they want more information, it's available from your office.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having
guys.
us.
Appreciate the time.
Appreciate it.
Sheriff Gary Schuette and Undersheriff Chris Simpson. More of the morning.